She'd been serving the quiet old man breakfast for months, same booth, same tip, same polite smile. Then one afternoon, 100 motorcycles surrounded her diner, and their leader knelt before the old man's empty seat. The waitress realized too late, the lonely customer she'd been feeding wasn't just anyone, he was a legend, and his family had just come to collect him. The coffee pot was half empty when Maya Torres first noticed the tremor in Frank's hands. She'd been serving him breakfast at the Route 12 diner for 3 months now, same booth by the window, same order every morning at 6:47 a.m. sharp. 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee. No variation. Ever. But today, when he reached for the sugar packets, his fingers shook so badly that 3 of them scattered across the red vinyl table. "You okay there, Frank?" Maya asked, already grabbing a dish rag. "Fine, fine," his voice was gravel and smoke, weathered like the desert landscape outside. "Just the cold getting into these old bones." It was 92 degrees outside. Maya didn't push it. In her 2 years working at this forgotten slice of highway between nowhere and nothing, she'd learned that people came to places like this specifically because they didn't want to be asked questions. The diner was a sanctuary for the forgotten, the running, and the hiding. She wiped up the sugar and refilled his coffee without another word. Frank nodded his thanks and returned to his newspaper, an actual physical newspaper, the kind nobody read anymore except men who'd lived through eras when the internet didn't exist. Maya caught a glimpse of the headline, "Local Sheriff Commended for Gang Suppression Efforts." She turned away before Frank noticed her staring. The morning rush, if you could call 4 customers a rush, came and went. A trucker named Billy who always ordered the meatloaf even though it tasted like cardboard. Mrs. Chen, who nursed a single cup of tea for 2 hours while doing crossword puzzles. A state highway worker whose name Maya never learned because he never looked up from his phone. And Frank. Always Frank. At 8:15, like clockwork, he stood up. Left exact change on the table, $12.47, not a penny more or less. And beside the money, a folded piece of paper. Maya had a collection of them now, 43 notes stuffed in a shoebox under her bed. They all said the same thing in careful, old-fashioned handwriting: "See you tomorrow." Today's note was no different. Except for the coin. Frank always left a tip, usually just $1 or $2. But lately, he'd been leaving these strange coins instead. Thick, heavy things made of tarnished silver with a skull and wings stamped on one side. The first time, Maya thought it was some kind of antique. She'd looked it up online. Iron Saints MC, 1987. Motorcycle Club Challenge coins. Collectibles. Worth maybe $20 each to the right buyer. Frank had left her 7 of them now. "See you tomorrow, Frank," Maya called out as he headed for the door, his shoulders slightly hunched, his boots worn down at the heels. He raised one hand in a half-wave without turning around. Through the window, Maya watched him climb into an old pickup truck that looked like it had survived at least 3 wars. The engine coughed twice before catching, and then he was gone, disappearing into the shimmering heat waves that made the highway look like it was melting. "He's sweet on you." Maya jumped. She hadn't heard Dolores come up behind her. The cook was 67, built like a fire hydrant, and had opinions about everything. "He's just a lonely old man," Maya said, gathering up the dishes. "Lonely men don't leave coins worth $20 as tips when they could leave 2 ones. Dolores wiped her hands on her apron, leaving grease stains that would never come out. "That man's got a story. Everyone's got a story. Yeah, but his is the kind that walks through the door wearing leather and trouble." Maya rolled her eyes and headed back to the kitchen. Dolores watched too many crime shows. The afternoon shift dragged like every afternoon shift did. Maya's feet ached, her back hurt, and she kept checking her phone even though she knew what she'd find: nothing. No messages from her son Leo's school. No calls from the landlord about the rent she was 3 days late on. No miracle solutions to the fact that she was a 32-year-old widow raising an 8-year-old boy on waitress wages in a town so small it didn't even have a traffic light. At 4:30, she was refilling salt shakers when she heard it. At first, Maya thought it was thunder. The sky had been cloudless all day, but desert storms could roll in fast and mean. But the sound didn't fade, it grew louder, deeper, more rhythmic. Engines. Lots of them. Dolores emerged from the kitchen, her face pale. "You hear that?" Maya set down the salt shaker and walked to the window. The highway stretched empty in both directions, a black ribbon cutting through the tan wilderness. But the sound was getting closer, and now Maya could feel it too, a vibration in her chest, in her bones, in the coffee cups rattling on their shelves. Then she saw them. They came from the west like a storm made of chrome and leather, a column of motorcycles stretching so far back that Maya couldn't see where the line ended. 1 bike. 5 bikes. 20. 50. More. They moved in perfect formation, 2 by 2, engines roaring in harmony. Black and silver machines that looked like they cost more than Maya made in a year. Riders dressed in leather vests, sunglasses, bandanas. And every single one of them was turning into the diner's parking lot. "Oh my God," Dolores whispered. "Oh my God, Maya, get in the back." But Maya couldn't move. She stood frozen at the window, watching as the motorcycles surrounded the diner like a noose tightening. They filled the parking lot, spilled onto the shoulder of the highway, lined up in rows so precise they looked military. Maya counted 40 bikes before she lost track. 60. 80. The sound was deafening now, a wall of thunder that made the diner's windows vibrate. Inside, Mrs. Chen had abandoned her crossword puzzle and was clutching her purse like a shield. The highway worker was already halfway to the back door. 100 motorcycles. 100 riders. And every single one of them was staring at the diner. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the engines cut off. The silence that followed was somehow worse than the noise, thick and heavy and full of waiting. The lead rider dismounted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe 40 years old with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. He removed his helmet with deliberate slowness and hung it on his handlebars. Maya could see the patches on his vest now. The skull and wings. The words stitched in white thread. Iron Saints MC Dante Vega President. He started walking toward the diner's entrance. Behind him, 99 other riders dismounted and followed. Maya's hand found the edge of the counter, gripping it hard enough to hurt. Her heart hammered against her ribs. In the kitchen, she could hear Dolores praying in Spanish. The door opened. Dante Vega stepped inside, his boots heavy on the checkered linoleum. The other riders filed in behind him, filling the diner until there was no more room, and then standing outside the windows, pressed against the glass like an audience waiting for a show to start. Dante scanned the room slowly. His eyes, dark brown, almost black, passed over Mrs. Chen, over the abandoned coffee cups, over Dolores's terrified face peeking through the kitchen window. Then he saw what he was looking for. Booth number 3. By the window. Where Frank sat every morning. Where Frank wasn't sitting now. Dante walked to the booth with deliberate steps. He stood there for a long moment, just staring at the empty vinyl seat. Then, slowly, carefully, he lowered himself to one knee. "Father," he said, his voice carrying in the absolute silence of the diner. "It's time." Maya's tray slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. Because she understood now, the coins, the notes, the trembling hands. The quiet old man she'd been feeding eggs and toast to every morning for 3 months wasn't just some lonely veteran. He was a legend. And his family had just come to collect him. The broken pieces of Maya's tray scattered across the floor like shrapnel, but nobody moved to help her pick them up. Every eye in the diner was locked on Dante Vega, still kneeling in front of the empty booth as if it were a shrine. "Where is he?" Dante's voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a blade. Maya's throat had gone completely dry. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. One of the bikers behind Dante, a woman with silver hair and a scar running down her left cheek, stepped forward. "Boss, maybe he." I asked her. Dante's eyes finally shifted to Maya, and she felt the weight of his stare like a physical thing. "You're Maya Torres, right? The waitress Frank talks about?" The fact that Frank had talked about her, that this stranger knew her name, made Maya's skin crawl. He comes in the mornings. He's not here now. I don't know where. His truck's at the clinic," a younger biker called from outside, his phone pressed to his ear. "Doc Patterson's office. Someone saw him go in 40 minutes ago." The tension in Dante's shoulders shifted from anticipation to something else. Concern. Fear, even. He rose to his feet in one fluid motion. "Martinez, Cruz, with me. The rest of you wait here." He glanced at Maya. "We're not here to cause trouble. We're here for family." Then he was moving, 3 other riders falling into step behind him. The motorcycles outside roared to life again, just 4 of them this time, and tore out of the parking lot in the direction of town. Which left 96 bikers standing in and around a diner that barely sat 30 people. Maya finally remembered how to breathe. Dolores emerged from the kitchen, wielding a spatula like a weapon. "Everyone out. This is private property, you can't just." "We'll pay." The silver-haired woman pulled out a wallet thick with cash. "For the inconvenience. For the wait. Whatever you need." She counted out $500 bills and placed them on the counter. Maya stared at the money. That was more than she made in 2 weeks. "We're not here to scare anyone," the woman continued. Her voice was surprisingly gentle, at odds with the hardness in her face. "Frank. He means a lot to us. All of us. And if Dante says it's time, then something's wrong." "Time for what?" Maya found her voice, even though it came out shakier than she wanted. The woman studied her for a long moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "You know those coins Frank's been leaving you?" Maya nodded. "Those belonged to his son. Danny Russo. He died 6 years ago, friendly fire in Afghanistan. Frank founded the Iron Saints back in 1987, built it from nothing into a brotherhood of over 300 riders across 4 states. But after Danny died, he couldn't handle it anymore. Gave everything to Dante and disappeared." "Disappeared?" Maya thought about Frank's careful routine, his exact change, his quiet demeanor. "He's been coming here every day for 3 months. We know. Dante's been keeping tabs, making sure he was safe. Frank didn't want contact, said he needed to be alone with his grief. We respected that." The woman's jaw tightened. "But the deal was, if Frank ever needed us, he'd send word. Those coins you've been getting? That's the word." Maya's hand instinctively went to her apron pocket, where today's coin rested. "I don't understand." "Why would he?" "Because something's coming," a male biker interrupted. He was older, maybe 60, with a gray beard and kind eyes. "Frank's been in this life long enough to smell trouble before it arrives. And when Frank Russo says it's time to call in the family, you don't ask questions. You come." Outside, Mrs. Chen was speed-walking to her car, her crossword puzzle abandoned on the table. The highway worker had already vanished. Maya didn't blame them. But she couldn't leave. This was her job. Her livelihood. And somehow, impossibly, she'd been pulled into the orbit of something much bigger than breakfast orders and coffee refills. "The sheriff came by yesterday," Maya heard herself say. Every biker in the diner turned to look at her. "Sheriff Winters?" the silver-haired woman asked sharply. Maya nodded. He sat in that same booth where Frank always sits. Asked me questions about the regulars, about anyone suspicious coming through. Said there'd been reports of motorcycle gangs using this highway for smuggling. The woman's expression went dark. That son of a... Easy, Rita, the older man with the gray beard placed a hand on her shoulder. What did you tell him? Nothing. I said I serve coffee and eggs, not information. Maya crossed her arms. But he left me his card. Said to call if I saw anything worth reporting. Rita, the silver-haired woman, let out a bitter laugh. Earl Winters has been trying to shut down the Iron Saints for 15 years. Claims we're criminals. Truth is, we went legitimate in 2010. Every rider here has a clean record. We run charity rides, raise money for veterans, help out communities. But that doesn't matter to Winters. He sees the vests and decides we're guilty. Why? Maya asked. Because we wouldn't help him cover up his own crimes, the older man said quietly. 10 years ago, Winters was involved in a money laundering scheme, using seized assets from raids to line his own pockets. Frank found out, threatened to expose him. Winters has been waiting for revenge ever since. The pieces were starting to click together in Maya's mind, forming a picture she didn't like. So Frank's been hiding here. Trying to live out his days in peace, Rita finished. But Winters must have found him. And if Frank's calling us in, it means the sheriff's making his move. The sound of motorcycles returning cut through the conversation. Dante's bike pulled up first, and Maya's stomach dropped when she saw his face through the window. He looked shattered. Dante dismounted and walked back into the diner, his movements slower than before, heavier. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. Frank's in the hospital. Heart attack. The doc stabilized him, but he swallowed hard. He gave me this. Dante held up a manila envelope, the kind that looked like it had been sealed for years. He said to open it only if something happened to him. Said everything we need to know is inside. Dante's dark eyes swept across his assembled brothers and sisters. And he said to trust the waitress. 96 pairs of eyes turned to Maya. She took a step back, shaking her head. I don't know anything. I just serve him breakfast. Frank Russo doesn't trust easily, Dante said. If he says you're part of this, then you're part of this. He tore open the envelope and pulled out a stack of documents. His eyes scanned the first page, and Maya watched his expression shift from confusion to shock to pure, cold rage. What is it? Rita asked. Dante looked up, and when he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. Proof. That Sheriff Winters killed a cop 5 years ago to cover up his smuggling operation. He turned the document around so everyone could see the name typed at the top. Maya's legs nearly gave out. Because the name on that page was one she knew by heart. Officer James Torres. Her husband. The diner spun around Maya like she'd been thrown from a moving car. She grabbed the counter to steady herself, her vision tunneling until all she could see was that name typed in official police report font. Officer James Torres. Deceased. That's, her voice came out strangled. That's my husband. The silence that fell over the diner was absolute. Even the desert wind outside seemed to hold its breath. Dante's face shifted from rage to something softer, understanding, maybe, or pity. Your husband was a cop. State police. He died 5 years ago. Maya's hands were shaking now, just like Frank's had been that morning. They said it was an accident. A training exercise gone wrong. Friendly fire. It wasn't an accident. Dante carefully set the documents on the counter, spreading them out so Maya could see. According to this, your husband was investigating Sheriff Winters. He'd uncovered evidence of a smuggling operation. Winters was seizing drugs and guns from legitimate busts, then selling them back onto the streets through a network of dirty cops and dealers. Rita leaned over Dante's shoulder, reading quickly. Says here Torres was getting close. Had witnesses ready to testify. Then suddenly, during a training exercise at the county range, he took a bullet to the chest. She looked up at Maya. Your husband didn't die by accident. He was murdered. The word hung in the air like smoke. Murdered. Maya had spent 5 years believing James died because of a tragic mistake. 5 years telling their son that Daddy was a hero who died serving his community. 5 years struggling to make ends meet while Sheriff Winters got commendations and promotions and praise. Why would Frank have this? Maya's voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Why would he keep evidence about my husband? Because Frank was there, the older biker with the gray beard said softly. He'd been reading over Dante's other shoulder. Look at the witness list. Dante flipped to the second page. Halfway down, highlighted in yellow, Frank Russo, Iron Saints MC. Frank saw something that day, Dante said, piecing it together as he read. Says here he was at the range doing his annual firearms recertification. He always kept his permits current, even after he retired from the club. He witnessed the shooting. Gave a statement that contradicted the official report. What did he say? Maya asked. Dante's jaw tightened. He said it wasn't an accident. Said the angle was wrong, the circumstances were suspicious. Said Officer Torres was executed. He flipped another page. But his testimony was buried. Winters had enough people in his pocket to make sure the investigation went nowhere. Frank tried to push it, tried to get someone to listen, but he was just a biker, Rita finished bitterly. And bikers don't get believed over decorated sheriffs. Maya felt something cold and hard settling in her chest, replacing the shock with something else. Anger. Pure, focused rage. Frank kept all of this. She touched the documents with trembling fingers. For 5 years, he held on to the evidence. Frank doesn't forget, Dante said. And he doesn't forgive. He must have been waiting for the right moment to use this. He looked at Maya with new respect in his eyes. Or the right person. The waitress, Maya whispered, remembering what Frank had said. Trust the waitress. You're not just any waitress, Rita said. You're James Torres's widow. You have standing. You have credibility. If you come forward with this evidence, Winters will destroy me. Maya shook her head. He's the sheriff. He has power, connections, resources. I'm nobody. A single mom barely making rent. You're not nobody. Dante's voice was firm. And you're not alone. He gestured to the 96 bikers filling the diner and parking lot. The Iron Saints didn't come here just for Frank. We came because when one of ours calls, we answer. And right now, you're one of ours. I barely know Frank. Doesn't matter. He chose you. That makes you family. Maya wanted to argue, wanted to say this was insane, that she couldn't possibly stand up against Sheriff Winters with an army of bikers behind her. But before she could speak, her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, expecting a text from Leo's after-school program. Instead, it was a message from an unknown number. Heard you had some interesting visitors today. Careful who you associate with, Mrs. Torres. Wouldn't want anything to happen to that boy of yours. The phone nearly slipped from Maya's hands. What is it? Rita asked. Maya showed her the message. Rita's expression went volcanic. That coward. She passed the phone to Dante. He's threatening her kid. Dante read the message, and Maya watched something dangerous flicker behind his eyes. When he looked up, his voice was controlled, but she could hear the fury underneath. Where's your son right now? After-school program at Jefferson Elementary. They keep the kids until 6-inch. Maya checked the time, 5:47 p.m. I pick him up on my way home. Not today. Dante nodded to two of the bikers near the door. Santos, get to that school. Don't let the kid out of your sight. Take Fisher with you. The two men moved immediately, heading for their bikes. Wait, Maya started. Sheriff Winters just made this personal, Dante cut her off. Threatening a child? That crosses every line. We're not letting anything happen to your son. But what about Frank? Maya's mind was spinning, trying to process everything at once. You said he had a heart attack. Shouldn't you? Frank's stable for now. The hospital has him under watch. Dante's expression softened slightly. He knew this was coming, Maya. That's why he called us. That's why he left you those coins, building up a paper trail that connects you to him, to us. Frank's been playing chess while Winters was playing checkers. Rita nodded. Frank spent 5 years waiting for Winters to make a mistake. Looks like he finally did. What mistake? Maya asked. Coming after you. Dante gathered up the documents and carefully placed them back in the envelope. Winters has spent years being careful, covering his tracks. But the moment he threatened a cop's widow in front of witnesses, bikers or not, he showed his hand. He's scared. And scared men make mistakes. Outside, Santos and Fisher's motorcycles roared to life, heading toward town and Maya's son. Maya felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She could walk away. Take Leo and disappear. Start over somewhere else, like she'd thought about doing 100 times before. Or she could stay. Fight. Finish what James started and what Frank had preserved. If I do this, she said slowly, if I go after Winters with this evidence, he'll come at me with everything he has. Yes, Dante agreed. He will. My son could get hurt. Not while we're here. Maya looked around the diner at the faces of 96 strangers who dropped everything to answer an old man's call. At Rita, whose scarred face held a warrior's determination. At the gray-bearded biker whose kind eyes promised protection. At Dante Vega, who'd knelt before an empty booth like it was holy ground. These weren't criminals. They were family. And somehow, impossibly, she'd just become part of it. Okay, Maya said. What do we do? Dante smiled, a sharp, predatory expression that promised trouble for anyone who stood in their way. We finish what your husband started. And we make sure Frank's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. He extended his hand. Maya took it. Sheriff Earl Winters arrived at the diner at 6:23 p.m., just as the sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon. He came alone, driving his personal cruiser instead of an official vehicle, a detail Maya noticed immediately. The bikers noticed too. She watched them tense, hands moving subtly toward pockets and waistbands. Dante raised one hand in a calming gesture, and they relaxed. Barely. Winters stepped out of his cruiser slowly, making a show of surveying the parking lot full of motorcycles. He was 53, built like a man who'd once been athletic but had let himself go soft around the middle. His uniform was crisp, his badge polished to a mirror shine, and his smile was the kind that never reached his eyes. He pushed open the diner door, and his smile widened when he saw Maya behind the counter. Well, well. Quite the party you've got here, Mrs. Torres. He tipped his hat to her, then let his gaze sweep across the bikers filling the small space. Didn't know the Route 12 diner had become a clubhouse. They're customers, Maya said, keeping her voice level. Paying customers. That right? Winters sauntered to the counter, deliberately turning his back on Dante and the others, a power move, showing he wasn't intimidated. Funny thing about customers. They usually order food. This bunch looks more like they're having a meeting. We're waiting on a friend, Dante said from behind him. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. Not illegal last time I checked. Winters turned slowly, his hand resting casually on his belt, close enough to his service weapon to be a threat, far enough to claim innocence. Dante Vega. Been a while. Not long enough, Sheriff. Now, is that any way to greet an officer of the law? Winters's smile never wavered. Especially when I'm here out of concern. Got a call about a disturbance. Worried citizens saying there's a gang presence at this establishment. We're a motorcycle club, Rita said sharply. And we're registered as a non-profit organization. We're not breaking any laws. Course not. You're all model citizens now, right? Reformed. Legitimate. Winters drew out the last word like it tasted bad. Funny how you all seem to show up wherever there's trouble though. Funny how you seem to show up making accusations without evidence, Dante countered. The temperature in the diner seemed to drop 10 degrees. Winters's smile finally faded. He leaned against the counter, close enough that Maya could smell his cologne, expensive, overpowering. Let me be clear, Mrs. Torres. These people aren't your friends. They're predators. They might wear charity ride patches and talk about helping veterans, but underneath? They're the same thugs they've always been. That's enough, Maya said quietly. I'm trying to protect you, sweetheart. Winters's voice took on a patronizing tone that made Maya's skin crawl. You've got a young son, don't you? Leo, right? 8 years old? Smart kid. Be a shame if he grew up thinking criminals were heroes. The threat was barely veiled, and everyone in the diner heard it. Dante moved forward, but Rita caught his arm. The gray-bearded biker, whose name Maya had learned was Marcus, stepped in front of them both, his voice steady. Sheriff, you seem awfully interested in threatening a civilian. Might want to remember there are about 100 witnesses here. Threatening? Winters laughed. I'm offering friendly advice. See, I knew Mrs. Torres's husband. Good man, James. Tragic what happened to him. Maya's hands clenched into fists beneath the counter. Training accident, wasn't it? Winters continued, watching Maya's face carefully. Real shame. He was investigating some serious cases before he died. Drug smuggling, corruption, all kinds of nasty business. The kind of work that gets a man killed if he's not careful. The implication hung in the air like poison gas. What are you really here for, Winters? Maya asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The sheriff straightened, all pretense of friendliness dropping away. I'm here because I received concerning information about Frank Russo. Heard he had a medical emergency today. Heard he's been frequenting this establishment. And I'm here to remind you, all of you, that Frank Russo has a long criminal record. Association with known felons can be problematic. For business licenses, for custody arrangements, for all sorts of things. He let that sink in, then pulled out a business card and placed it on the counter in front of Maya. You're a smart woman, Mrs. Torres. Smart enough to know when you're in over your head. If you need help, real help, not the kind that comes wearing leather and smelling like motor oil, you call me. Day or night. He tapped the card twice, then headed for the door. Before leaving, he paused and looked back at Dante. Oh, and Vega? Tell your boys to be careful riding these roads at night. Awful lot of accidents happen on Route 12. Blind curves, loose gravel, drivers who don't see motorcycles until it's too late. Would hate for any of your people to end up like Officer Torres. The door swung shut behind him. Nobody moved until they heard his cruiser pull out of the parking lot. Then the diner erupted. That son of a... He just threatened all of us. We should. Enough. Dante's voice cut through the chaos. He turned to Maya, and she was startled to see something like respect in his expression. You held your ground. That took guts. Maya looked down at the business card Winters had left. The same card he'd given her yesterday. The precinct address printed at the bottom was the same one where James had worked. Where James had died. Her hands started to shake, not from fear, but from rage. He knew, she whispered. When he came in yesterday, before any of this, he already knew about Frank. About the evidence. He was testing me. Rita picked up the card, examining it like it might be poisonous. He's been watching you. Probably for months. Waiting to see if Frank would make contact. But why now? Marcus asked. Why make his move today? Dante pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages. His expression darkened. Because Frank's property goes to probate if he dies. And guess who's been trying to buy that land for the past 3 years? He turned the phone around, showing them a news article. Sheriff Winters proposes new development initiative, claims eminent domain necessary for county growth. The article included a map. Frank's property was highlighted in red, marked for county seizure. He's been waiting for Frank to die, Maya said, the pieces clicking together. That's why he hasn't moved against him before. If Frank dies without heirs, the county can claim the land. Winters gets his development, buries any evidence that might be hidden there, and eliminates the one witness who can connect him to James's murder. But Frank's not going to die, Rita said firmly. And now that we're here, Winters can't make him disappear quietly. Dante's phone buzzed. He answered, listened for a moment, then nodded. Copy that. He ended the call and looked at Maya. Santos and Fisher have your son. He's safe. They're taking him to a secure location, one of our members' houses outside town. Family with kids, completely legit. They'll keep him entertained and protected until we sort this out. Maya should have been terrified. Should have demanded they bring Leo back immediately. But she'd seen the look in Winters's eyes, heard the barely concealed threat in his voice. Her son was safer with the Iron Saints than he'd be anywhere else right now. What about Frank? She asked. Hospital says he's awake. Weak, but stable. He's asking for you. For me? Dante nodded. Said he needs to tell you something. Something he should have told your husband 5 years ago. Maya untied her apron, her decision made. Then let's go. Maya, Dolores emerged from the kitchen, where she'd been hiding since Winters arrived. Are you sure about this? Those people, that sheriff, this is dangerous. Maya thought about James's journal entries, the ones she'd found after he died, where he'd written about corruption and cover-ups and doing the right thing even when it cost everything. She thought about Frank, sitting alone in his booth every morning, carrying the weight of witnessing a murder and being powerless to stop it. She thought about Leo, who deserved to grow up knowing his father died a hero fighting for justice, not a victim of a training accident. I'm sure, Maya said. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Behind her, 96 bikers moved as one, following their brother's widow into whatever came next. The hospital was a small 2-story building on the edge of town, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone and secrets were harder to keep. Maya walked through the automatic doors with Dante on her left and Rita on her right, while the rest of the Iron Saints formed a perimeter outside, a protective wall of leather and chrome. The nurse at the front desk took one look at them and reached for the phone. We're here to see Frank Russo, Dante said before she could dial. He's expecting us. Visiting hours are. He's expecting us, Dante repeated, and something in his voice made the nurse put down the phone. Room 214. Second floor. But only immediate family. We're his family, Rita said simply. They took the stairs rather than wait for the elevator. Maya's heart pounded with each step, her mind racing through 1,000 questions she wanted to ask Frank. Why did he have evidence about James? What did he see that day at the range? Why had he waited 5 years to do something about it? Room 214 was at the end of a quiet hallway. Through the small window in the door, Maya could see Frank propped up in bed, an oxygen tube in his nose and 4 lines running to his arm. He looked smaller than he did in the diner, diminished by the white sheets and beeping machines. But his eyes were alert. When he saw them through the window, he nodded. Dante pushed open the door, and they filed inside. Took you long enough, Frank said, his voice raspy but stronger than Maya expected. Thought maybe you'd decided to leave an old man to die in peace. Not a chance, Dante said, pulling a chair close to the bed. You don't get off that easy. Frank's gaze shifted to Maya. You read the file. It wasn't a question. Some of it, Maya said, moving to stand at the foot of his bed. Enough to know you saw what happened to James. Enough to know Sheriff Winters killed him. Frank closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them again, they were wet. I've carried that weight for 5 years. Every single day. Then why didn't you come forward? The words came out harsher than Maya intended. Why didn't you tell someone? Tell me? I tried. Frank's hands clutched at the bedsheets. God knows I tried. I gave my statement to the state police. Told them exactly what I saw, Winters and your husband arguing at the range, Winters pulling his weapon, the angle of the shot. But I was just an ex-biker with a record. Winters was a decorated sheriff with friends in high places. So they buried it, Rita said quietly. Frank nodded. Made it go away. Called me a liar, threatened to revoke my permits, suggested maybe I'd imagined things because of past substance issues from 30 years ago. His laugh was bitter. They rewrote the narrative. Made it a training accident. Made James the careless cop who forgot basic safety protocols. Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. What were they arguing about? Your husband found something. Frank shifted in the bed, wincing. He'd been investigating Winters for months, building a case. That day at the range, James confronted him. Said he had enough evidence to put Winters away for 20 years. Told him to turn himself in or he'd do it for him. And Winters shot him, Maya finished. Made it look like an accident. Claimed James's weapon discharged during a drill. Had 3 other deputies there to back up his story. Frank's voice cracked. I was on the other side of the range, doing my recertification. Saw the whole thing through my scope. But who's going to believe a biker over 4 cops? Dante leaned forward. What happened to James's evidence? The case he was building? That's the thing. Frank reached for a cup of water on the bedside table. Rita handed it to him, and he took a sip before continuing. James told me about it. The night before he died, he came to my place. Said he needed someone outside the department he could trust, in case something happened to him. Maya's breath caught. James knew you? We'd crossed paths a few times over the years. I helped him out once when some real criminals, not bikers, actual criminals, were using our club's name to run drugs. James could have busted the whole club, but he saw we were trying to go legitimate. He gave us a chance to clean house ourselves, to prove we weren't involved. Frank's expression softened. Your husband was a good man, Maya. One of the few cops who saw past the leather and actually looked at who we were. So he trusted you with his evidence, Dante said, pulling the conversation back on track. Frank nodded. Told me where he'd hidden it. Said if anything happened to him, I should get it to his wife. He looked directly at Maya. That's you. James made me promise. But after he died, after Winters made it clear he'd destroy anyone who challenged him, I got scared. Thought if I gave you the evidence, Winters would come after you next. Come after your son. So you kept it hidden, Maya said, understanding now. 4 or 5 years. I kept watch over you instead, Frank said. Checked in on you from a distance. Made sure you and the boy were okay. Then 6 months ago, you started working at the diner, and I thought. Maybe this was my chance. To get to know you. To figure out if you were strong enough to handle the truth. And the coins? Maya asked, thinking of the 7 Iron Saints challenge coin sitting in a shoebox under her bed. Breadcrumbs, Frank said. Physical evidence linking you to me, to the club. Building a paper trail so when the time came, when I finally gave you the evidence, there'd be a clear chain of custody. Every transaction recorded, every tip documented in the diner's books. He smiled weakly. I learned from James. You want to take down someone with power, you need ironclad proof. Rita was looking at Frank with new respect. You've been playing the long game. Had to. Winters has been watching me for years, waiting for me to make a move. But he didn't know about the diner. Didn't know I'd found Maya. Frank's breathing was getting labored. Then my heart started giving out. Started having pains, tremors. Knew I didn't have much time left. That's why I activated the coins, called Dante. Had to make sure everything was in place before. Before Winters made his move, Maya finished. She pulled out her phone and showed Frank the threatening text message. He knows. About us. About Leo. Frank's face went pale. Your boy. Safe, Dante assured him. Santos and Fisher have him at a secure location. Good. Good, Frank relaxed slightly. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to make Winters desperate. And desperate men do terrible things. He gestured to the small closet in the corner of the room. My boots. In the left one, there's a key. Rita retrieved the boots and found the key, small, brass, the kind that opened a safety deposit box. First National Bank, downtown, Frank said. Box 347. Everything James gathered is in there. Bank statements showing Winters's payoffs. Recordings of conversations. Names of dealers in his network. And photographs. Photographs of what? Maya asked. Frank's eyes met hers, and she saw genuine fear there for the first time. Of the shooting. I had a camera mounted on my scope for range practice. It was recording when James died. He swallowed hard. Crystal clear footage of Sheriff Earl Winters committing murder. The room went absolutely silent except for the steady beep of the heart monitor. That's why he wants you dead, Dante said quietly. That footage would end him. Not just him, Frank said. The 3 deputies who helped cover it up. The state police captain who buried my testimony. The county prosecutor who ruled it an accident. The entire network of corruption your husband died trying to expose. Maya felt the weight of it pressing down on her, 5 years of lies, of injustice, of her husband's sacrifice being buried and forgotten. But she also felt something else. Purpose. Where's the bank key now? She asked. Rita held it up. Maya took it, closing her fingers around the cold brass. Then let's go get it. Maya, wait, Frank struggled to sit up higher. Once you open that box, once you take possession of that evidence, Winters will know. He has people everywhere, at the bank, in the police department, probably in this hospital. The moment you use that key, you paint a target on your back. The target's already there, Maya said. He threatened my son. Frank searched her face, then nodded slowly. You're just like James. He had that same look when he decided to stand up to Winters. That same fire. Yeah, well, look what happened to him, Rita muttered. James was alone, Dante said, standing. Maya's not. He placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, and she felt the weight of 96 bikers standing guard outside, felt the strength of this strange family that had adopted her in a single afternoon. Let's finish what James started, Maya said. Frank smiled, a real smile this time, the first one Maya had seen from him. Go get, kid. The First National Bank wouldn't open until 9 a.m. the next morning, which meant Maya had 12 hours to wait. 12 hours for Winters to make his next move. 12 hours for doubt to creep in. Dante arranged for her to stay at the Iron Saints headquarters, a renovated warehouse on the outskirts of town that looked rough on the outside but was surprisingly well maintained inside. There was a kitchen, a meeting room with worn leather couches, and several small bedrooms upstairs for members who needed a place to crash. Maya called the family watching Leo. A woman named Teresa answered, her voice warm and reassuring. "He's fine, honey. Just finished dinner, chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. Now he's playing video games with my boys. Doesn't suspect a thing. Can I talk to him?" "Of course." A moment later, Leo's voice came through the phone. "Mom. These guys have the new Spider-Man game. Can we get it?" Maya closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "Maybe for your birthday, baby. You being good?" "Yeah. When are you picking me up?" "Teresa said I might have a sleepover." "That's right. Mommy has to work late, so you're having an adventure. Sound fun?" "I guess. Love you, Mom." "Love you too, baby. More than anything." After she hung up, Maya sat on the edge of one of the beds, the bank key clutched in her hand. Through the walls, she could hear voices rising in the meeting room below. Angry voices. She shouldn't eavesdrop. But she also needed to know what she was really dealing with. Maya crept to the top of the stairs, staying in the shadows. "Can't just sit here and wait." A young voice, male, full of fury. "Winters threatened a kid." "A kid? We're not sitting. We're planning." That was Dante, his voice measured but strained. "Planning what? To politely ask the sheriff to turn himself in?" The younger man laughed bitterly. "This is exactly what Winters wants, for us to play by rules he doesn't follow. We are not going back to the old ways, Tommy." Rita's voice was sharp as broken glass. "We spent 10 years building legitimacy. 10 years proving we're not criminals. You want to throw that away?" "I want justice. Frank's in a hospital bed because of that corrupt bastard. James Torres is dead because of him. How many more people have to suffer while we sit here with our thumbs up our—" "Enough." Dante's voice cracked like a whip. "I know you're angry. We all are. But we do this smart or we don't do it at all." "Smart," Tommy spat the word. "You sound like Frank. Look, we're playing it smart." Got him, a heart attack and Winters still walking free. "Frank's alive because he was smart," Marcus interjected, his calm voice a counterpoint to Tommy's rage. "If he'd gone after Winters the old way, he'd be dead and buried, and we'd never have known the truth. Maybe that would have been better than living as a coward." The sound of a chair scraping back. Footsteps. Then Dante's voice, dangerously quiet. "Say that again." Silence. "Frank Russo built this club from nothing," Dante continued. "He gave you a brotherhood when you had nothing. A family when you were alone. And you're calling him a coward?" "I just meant." "I know what you meant. And I'm telling you right now, Tommy, if you can't get your head straight, there's the door. We don't need cowboys who think violence is the answer to everything. That's exactly what we need." Tommy's voice was desperate now, pleading. "Winters isn't going to stop. He's got the whole system behind him. You really think some bank records and a video are going to take him down? He'll bury it just like he buried James Torres's investigation." "Not if we do this right," Dante said. "Right according to who? The law? The same law that's protected Winters for 5 years?" Tommy laughed again, and Maya could hear something breaking in it. "My brother died in Winters's jail 3 years ago. Remember that, Dante? They said it was suicide, but Mikey would never. He was 2 months from getting out, had a job lined up, a girl waiting for him. And then suddenly he's found hanging in his cell." The room went quiet. "I remember," Dante said softly. "Then you know why I can't just sit here. Why some of us can't." Tommy's voice dropped. "There are 15 writers outside right now who feel the same way I do. We're done playing by their rules. If you won't lead us, we'll handle Winters ourselves. Maya's blood ran cold. You do that, you destroy everything. Rita's voice was pleading now. Tommy, please. Think about what you're saying. I have thought about it. I've thought about nothing else since Winters killed my brother. And I'm done thinking. Footsteps heading for the door. Then Dante's voice, tired and strained, if you walk out that door, you're out of the club. You and anyone who goes with you. I can't have riders I can't control. Control, Tommy laughed. That's what this has all been about, hasn't it? You and Frank, so worried about looking legitimate, about playing nice with society. But we're not nice, Dante. We're Iron Saints. We used to mean something. Used to be feared. We were feared because we were dangerous, Marcus said quietly. We're respected now because we're disciplined. There's a difference. Yeah. One gets results. The other gets us watching our brothers die while we file paperwork and hope the system works. The door opened and slammed shut. Maya heard more footsteps, multiple riders following Tommy out. She counted 5, then 10, then stopped counting as the exodus continued. When the sounds faded, she heard Rita's voice, thick with emotion. How many? 16, Dante said. Tommy took 16 riders. What are they going to do? Marcus asked. Nothing good. Maya descended the stairs. The 3 leaders looked up as she entered the meeting room, their faces haggard. I heard, Maya said. I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't. Don't, Dante cut her off. This has been brewing for a long time. Tommy's been angry since his brother died. Some of the younger riders, they don't remember the old days, don't understand why we changed. They think we've gone soft. Have we? Rita asked quietly. The question hung in the air. No, Marcus said firmly. We've gotten smart. There's a reason the Iron Saints have survived when other clubs folded or got destroyed by the feds. We adapted. Adapting doesn't feel like winning when brothers are dying, Rita said. Dante pulled out his phone, checking messages. His expression darkened. Tommy just posted on the club's private forum. He's calling his group the True Saints, says anyone who wants to handle Winters the right way should meet at the old Miller farmhouse. How many responses? Marcus asked. 23 and counting. Maya felt sick. They're going to go after Winters tonight, aren't they? Probably, Dante scrubbed a hand over his face. And when they do, when they burn down his house or beat him in the street or whatever they're planning, Winters will have every excuse he needs to declare the Iron Saints a criminal gang. He'll get federal warrants, RICO charges, the works. Everything Frank built, everything we've fought for, gone. Can you stop them? Maya asked. Not without a war within the club, Dante met her eyes. I've got maybe 70 riders who'll follow orders. Tommy's got 20 plus who are ready to go rogue. If I confront them directly, it splits the club permanently. So what do we do? Dante stood and walked to the window, looking out at the bikes parked outside. We do what Frank taught us. We play chess while they play checkers. Tommy wants to hit Winters directly? Fine. Let him. What? Rita looked shocked. We'll make sure they don't actually hurt anyone, follow them, intervene if it gets too violent. But let Winters see them coming. Let him think that's our play. Dante turned back, and Maya saw the strategist in him, the man Frank had chosen to lead. Because while Winters is focused on the True Saints, we'll hit him where it actually hurts. We'll get that evidence from the bank, and we'll make sure it gets into the right hands before he can bury it again. The right hands being? Marcus asked. Federal prosecutor, 2 counties over. Woman named Sarah Chen. Winters has no jurisdiction there, no connections. She's been trying to investigate him for years but never had enough evidence. Dante looked at Maya. Think you can handle meeting with a federal prosecutor? Maya thought about James, about Frank, about Leo growing up without knowing his father died a hero. Yes, she said. I can handle it. Good. Because we're going to get that evidence first thing tomorrow morning. And by tomorrow night, Sheriff Earl Winters is going to learn what it really means to go to war with the Iron Saints. Outside, in the distance, Maya heard the sound of motorcycles starting up. Tommy's true saints, heading out for revenge. And somewhere in town, Sheriff Winters was waiting for them. Maya didn't sleep. She lay in the small bedroom at the Iron Saints headquarters, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of worried bikers moving through the building below. Around 2 a.m., Dante's phone started ringing, urgent, repeated calls that made her stomach clench with dread. She was already dressed when Dante knocked on her door at 2:47 a.m. It's bad, he said without preamble. You need to see this. Downstairs, the meeting room had transformed into a command center. Laptops open, phones buzzing, a police scanner crackling in the corner. Rita and Marcus were hunched over one of the computers, their faces illuminated by the harsh blue glow. On the screen, a news broadcast played on loop. Breaking: police raid uncovers weapons cache at Route 12 diner. Sheriff's Department investigating possible ties to motorcycle gang activity. The footage showed the diner, her diner, surrounded by police vehicles, their lights painting the desert red and blue. Officers carried crates out of the building, the camera zooming in to show assault rifles, handguns, ammunition boxes. Maya's legs went weak. That's impossible. Those weren't there. I would have known. They were planted, Rita said flatly. Winters set this up. The news anchor continued, Sheriff Earl Winters personally led the raid after receiving an anonymous tip about illegal weapons storage. The diner's owner and staff are being questioned. In a related development, authorities are seeking information about several individuals connected to the Iron Saints Motorcycle Club, who were reportedly seen at the location earlier today. Winters appeared on screen, standing in front of the diner, his expression grave and professional. This is a serious matter. We have reason to believe this establishment has been used as a front for illegal activities, possibly including weapons trafficking and conspiracy. We're investigating all individuals who may have been involved. Maya felt rage boiling up inside her. He did this. He planted those weapons. Of course he did, Dante said. Tommy and his true saints showed up at Winters's house around midnight. Threw rocks through his windows, made threats, caused a scene. Neighbors called it in, everything on camera. Winters filed complaints, got restraining orders, and then, conveniently, received an anonymous tip about weapons at the diner. Connecting the bikers to the diner, to Maya, to everything, Marcus finished. He's building a narrative. Making us look like the criminals he's always claimed we are. The scanner crackled, all units, be advised. Warrant issued for Maya Torres, questioning in connection with weapons trafficking investigation. Consider her possibly armed and dangerous. Maya's blood turned to ice. He's coming for me. He's coming for all of us, Rita corrected. This is his trap. He's probably been planning it for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Tommy gave it to him on a silver platter. Dante's phone buzzed. He listened, his face darkening, then ended the call. That was Santos. Winters sent deputies to the house where Leo's staying. They're claiming they need to take him into protective custody, saying his mother is a person of interest in a criminal investigation. Maya's world tilted. No. No, they can't. They didn't get him, Dante said quickly. Santos saw them coming. Got Leo out through the back and they're moving to a new location. But Maya, this is serious. Winters is using your son as leverage. Where's Dolores? Maya asked suddenly, thinking of the cook who'd been hiding in the kitchen during Winters's visit. Rita pulled up another news clip. Dolores, being led out of the diner in handcuffs, looking terrified. The caption read, "Cook arrested in connection with weapons cache." Oh God, Maya sank into a chair. She has nothing to do with this. She's just a cook. She's a pressure point, Dante said grimly. Winters is rounding up everyone connected to you, applying pressure everywhere he can. He wants you scared. Wants you to make a mistake. Marcus pointed to the computer screen. Look at the timing. Tommy's group hit Winters's house at midnight. By 1 a.m., Winters had filed charges and obtained a search warrant for the diner, a process that usually takes days. By 2 a.m., he's conducting the raid and finding perfectly placed evidence. By 2:30, he's got arrest warrants and custody orders. He had this ready to go, Rita said. Just waiting for an excuse to pull the trigger. The scanner crackled again, additional warrants being issued. Dante Vega, Rita Morales, Marcus Webb, wanted for questioning. Approach with caution. He's going after the leadership, Dante said. Trying to decapitate the club. A knock at the warehouse door made everyone freeze. Hands moved to weapons. Marcus checked the security camera, then relaxed slightly. It's Father Miguel from St. Anthony's. They let in a small, elderly priest who looked deeply uncomfortable to be at a biker clubhouse at 3 a.m. He nodded to Dante. I came as soon as I heard. Is it true? Winters is claiming you're running guns? It's a setup, Father, Dante said. Everything he found was planted. I know. Father Miguel pulled out his phone and showed them a photo. Because I was at the diner yesterday afternoon, before you all arrived. I stopped by to drop off some supplies for Maya's food drive collection. The basement was empty, I helped her carry boxes down there myself. Maya's heart leaped. You can testify to that. You're a priest, people will believe you. Father Miguel's expression was pained. I wish it were that simple. But Winters has already thought of that. He's claiming the weapons were delivered after I left, during your group's visit. He's saying the timing of your arrival, 100 bikers all at once, was to provide cover for the weapons delivery. That's insane, Rita said. It's effective, the priest corrected sadly. He's controlling the narrative. By morning, every news station will be running stories about the dangerous biker gang. About the weapons. About the poor waitress who got caught up with criminals. Dante's phone rang again. This time when he answered, his face went completely white. What? Rita demanded. What is it? That was the hospital. Dante's voice was hollow. Frank's gone. Gone? Maya felt her heart stop. You mean he? No. I mean gone. Someone came into his room 20 minutes ago dressed as an orderly, disconnected his monitors, and wheeled him out. Security footage shows the orderly loading Frank into a van and driving away. Winters took him, Marcus said. He kidnapped a man from a hospital. Or killed him, Rita whispered. The room fell silent except for the crackling police scanner and the sound of Maya's ragged breathing. Everything was falling apart. Dolores arrested. Leo in hiding. The diner raided. Frank missing. Warrants out for everyone who tried to help her. And at the center of it all, Sheriff Earl Winters, systematically destroying anyone who threatened to expose his crimes. Maya stood up, her hands shaking but her voice steady. We have to get to the bank. Maya, there are warrants out, Dante said gently. The moment you show your face. Then I don't show my face, she turned to Rita. You're about my height. Can you get me clothes, a wig, something to disguise myself? What are you thinking? Rita asked. I'm thinking Winters expects me to run. Expects me to hide. He's counting on me being scared, being paralyzed. Maya's voice grew stronger. But he made one mistake. He doesn't know about the bank. Doesn't know Frank gave me the key. As far as Winters knows, any evidence James had died with him 5 years ago. Dante slowly nodded. So we get to the bank at 9 a.m., get the evidence out before Winters realizes it exists. And we get it to this prosecutor. Chen, you said? Maya looked at him. We do it fast, we do it now, before he has time to shut down every avenue. It's risky, Marcus said. If you're caught. If I don't try, Frank dies. Dolores goes to prison. My son grows up knowing his mother was too scared to fight for his father's memory. Maya shook her head. I'm done being scared. She walked to the window, looking out at the first hints of dawn lightening the eastern sky. In 6 hours, the bank would open. In 6 hours, she would either have the evidence to destroy Winters or she'd be in handcuffs. Behind her, Dante spoke quietly into his phone, rallying the remaining loyal riders, coordinating movements, planning strategies. The Iron Saints were going to war. And Maya Torres, waitress and widow, was leading the charge. At 8:47 a.m., Maya walked into the First National Bank wearing Rita's clothes, a brown wig, and sunglasses that covered half her face. Her hands were steady as she approached the receptionist, but her heart hammered so hard she was certain everyone could hear it. Good morning. I need to access a safety deposit box. She kept her voice soft, slightly higher pitched than normal. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect nails and a practiced smile, glanced up. Of course. Box number and identification, please. Maya slid Frank's key across the counter along with a driver's license, one of Rita's that they'd doctored just enough to pass a casual inspection. Box 347. The receptionist examined the ID, her eyes flicking between the photo and Maya's face. For a heart-stopping moment, Maya thought she'd been made. Then the woman smiled and stood. Right this way, Mrs. Morrison. They walked through the lobby, past customers conducting normal banking business, oblivious to the fact that a wanted woman was walking among them. Maya's palms were sweating, but she forced herself to move naturally, unhurried. The vault was in the back, a heavy steel door that looked like it belonged in a different era. The receptionist used her key in one lock while Maya used Frank's in the other. The box slid out smoothly, long and narrow, surprisingly heavy. Take your time, the receptionist said, leading Maya to a private viewing room. Just ring the bell when you're finished. The door clicked shut, leaving Maya alone. She lifted the lid with trembling hands. Inside, meticulously organized in labeled folders, was everything Frank had promised. Bank statements showing deposits to Winters's personal account that matched dates of major drug busts. Recorded phone conversations. Frank must have been more tech-savvy than he looked. Witness statements from people too scared to come forward officially. Names, dates, amounts. And at the bottom, a thumb drive with a label in Frank's careful handwriting, the truth. Maya plugged it into her phone using an adapter Rita had given her. The video file loaded, and she pressed play. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Shot from an elevated position, Frank's rifle scope camera, it showed the police range. James Torres standing near the targets, his back to the camera, talking on his phone. Then Winters approaching, his body language aggressive. James turning, his expression hardening. Words exchanged, Maya couldn't hear them, but she could read the confrontation in every gesture. Then James reaching for something in his jacket, his badge. Maya realized, he was showing Winters his badge, probably telling him he was under investigation. And Winters drawing his service weapon and firing. 3 shots. Center mass. James falling. Winters standing over him, looking around to make sure no one had seen. Then his face changing, arranging itself into shock and horror as 3 other deputies came running. The video continued for another 30 seconds, showing Winters giving orders, the deputies positioning James's weapon to make it look like an accident, the manufactured crime scene taking shape. Maya watched the whole thing twice, tears streaming down her face, her hand pressed over her mouth to keep from screaming. James hadn't died in an accident. He'd been murdered in cold blood. And she was holding the proof. A sharp knock on the door made Maya jump. She quickly closed the box, pocketing the thumb drive and the most crucial documents. "Mrs. Morrison? I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are some police officers here. They're asking if anyone matching a certain description has come in this morning." Maya's blood turned to ice. "Just a moment," she called out, her voice remarkably calm. She looked around the small room. One door, the one the receptionist was currently blocking. No windows. No escape. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dante, "They found us. Get out now." Another text, this one from an unknown number, "Give yourself up, Mrs. Torres. We have your son." Maya's world stopped. She called Dante immediately. He answered on the first ring. "Do they really have Leo?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No. Santos just checked in, Leo's still secure." "It's a bluff," Dante's voice was tight. "But Maya, you need to get out of there. We're 2 blocks away, but if they lock down the bank." "Mrs. Morrison?" The receptionist knocked again, sounding nervous now. "Please, the officers are insisting." Maya made a decision. She opened the door, the safety deposit box tucked under her arm. The receptionist stepped back, her eyes widening as she saw Maya's face clearly for the first time, recognition dawning. You're that waitress. From the news." "Yes," Maya said calmly. "And I need you to listen very carefully. The police officers out there work for a corrupt sheriff who murdered my husband 5 years ago. This box contains proof, video evidence, financial records, everything needed to convict him." The receptionist's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I know how this sounds," Maya continued, walking toward the lobby. "I know you have no reason to believe me. But in about 30 seconds, those officers are going to try to arrest me and confiscate this box. And if they do, the truth dies with it." They emerged into the lobby. 3 sheriff's deputies stood near the entrance, their hands on their weapons. Maya recognized one of them from the video, one of the men who'd helped Winters cover up James's murder. Deputy Carson. The one who'd repositioned James's weapon. "Maya Torres," Carson called out, his voice carrying across the silent lobby. "You need to come with us. You're wanted for questioning in connection with—" "I know what I'm wanted for," Maya interrupted, her voice steady and clear. "Weapons trafficking. Conspiracy. All charges based on evidence that was planted in my diner by Sheriff Winters. Ma'am, please don't make this harder than it needs to be." Maya held up the safety deposit box. "This contains proof that Sheriff Earl Winters murdered State Police Officer James Torres 5 years ago. It contains video footage of the murder, financial records showing his corruption, and testimony from witnesses. Everything you need to know that the man giving you orders is a killer." The lobby had gone completely silent. Customers staring. Bank employees frozen. Carson's hand moved to his weapon. "Put the box down, Mrs. Torres." "No. I said put it down." "Deputy Carson." The bank manager, an older man Maya hadn't noticed before, stepped forward. "This is a financial institution, not a shooting gallery. Whatever dispute you have, you take it outside." "Sir, this woman is wanted." "I don't care if she's wanted by the Pope himself. You don't draw weapons in my bank." The manager's voice was iron. "Now, either you produce a warrant for those documents, or you let her walk out that door." Carson's jaw clenched. "We have a warrant for her arrest. But not for those documents," the manager said. "Those belong to the box holder, Frank Russo, according to our records. And last I checked, Mr. Russo hasn't been charged with any crime. Maya could have kissed him. Carson spoke into his radio, urgency in his voice. Then he looked at Maya with barely contained rage. Sheriff's on his way. You're not leaving this building. Watch me. Maya walked toward the door. Carson moved to block her path. That's when the sound of motorcycles filled the street outside. Not one or two. Dozens. Through the bank's large windows, Maya saw them arriving, the Iron Saints, every loyal rider Dante had left, forming a wall of chrome and leather between the bank and the sheriff's department across the street. Dante himself walked through the bank's front door, flanked by Rita and Marcus. Problem here? Dante asked mildly. Carson's hand was still on his weapon. This doesn't concern you, Vega. Doesn't it? Because from where I'm standing, you're harassing a woman whose only crime was serving breakfast to a lonely old man. Dante's smile was all teeth. Tell me, Deputy Carson, were you at the police range 5 years ago when Officer Torres died? Carson went pale. That's what I thought. Dante turned to Maya. Federal Prosecutor Sarah Chen is waiting for us 2 blocks from here. Her office, not her home, everything official and recorded. Shall we? Maya clutched the box tighter and walked toward him. Carson grabbed her arm. You're not going anywhere. In an instant, every biker in the street dismounted and started walking toward the bank. 70+ Iron Saints, moving as one. Carson let go of Maya's arm like it had burned him. Smart choice, Rita said. They walked out of the bank together, Maya in the center, protected on all sides by the Iron Saints. The deputies didn't follow. Couldn't follow, not without starting a riot that would be caught on camera by the dozen news crews that were suddenly arriving, drawn by reports of a standoff. Maya climbed onto the back of Dante's bike, the safety deposit box secure in a saddlebag. Hold on, Dante said. She wrapped her arms around him as the engines roared to life. And they rode toward justice. Federal Prosecutor Sarah Chen's office was small and cluttered with case files, nothing like the imposing chambers Maya had imagined. Chen herself was in her early 40s, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded Maya of her late husband. You have 10 minutes, Chen said, checking her watch. I agreed to this meeting as a courtesy to Father Miguel, who vouched for you. But I need to be clear, I've received calls from Sheriff Winters claiming you're armed and dangerous. So before we go any further, I need to know, are you armed? No, Maya said. But I am dangerous. Dangerous to Sheriff Winters, anyway. Chen's eyebrow raised slightly. Explain. Maya set the safety deposit box on the desk. 5 years ago, my husband, State Police Officer James Torres, was investigating Sheriff Earl Winters for corruption. James found evidence of money laundering, drug trafficking, and bribery. When he confronted Winters, the sheriff murdered him and made it look like a training accident. That's a serious accusation, Chen said carefully. It's the truth. Maya opened the box and began laying out documents. Bank statements showing unexplained deposits into Winters's personal accounts. Phone recordings where he discusses payments with known drug dealers. Witness statements from people he intimidated into silence. Chen picked up one of the bank statements, scanning it quickly. Her expression didn't change, but Maya saw her grip tighten on the paper. This is circumstantial. Good enough to raise questions, but Winters has lawyers who could explain most of this away. Chen looked up. What else do you have? Maya pulled out the thumb drive. Video footage of Winters murdering my husband. Shot from a rifle scope camera by Frank Russo, who was at the range that day. It shows everything, the confrontation, the shooting, the cover-up. All of it. For the first time, Chen's professional mask cracked. You have video evidence? Crystal clear. 3 shots, center mass. Then Winters and 3 deputies staging the scene to look like an accident. Chen held out her hand. "Let me see it." Maya plugged the thumb drive into Chen's computer. They watched in silence, Maya for the 3rd time, Chen for the 1st. Dante, Rita, and Marcus stood behind them, bearing witness. When it ended, Chen sat back in her chair, her face pale. "My God," she whispered. "Do you know what this is? Do you know what you're holding?" "Proof," Maya said simply. "No. This is dynamite." Chen replayed a section, freezing on a frame that showed Winters's face clearly. "This doesn't just prove murder. It proves conspiracy, those deputies helped cover it up. It proves corruption in the department, maybe in the entire county system. This could bring down dozens of people." "Good," Rita said. "They deserve it." Chen turned to her. "You don't understand. Something this big, this explosive, the moment I file charges, Winters will know. He'll have maybe an hour, 2 at most, before federal marshals arrive. And in that time, he'll do whatever it takes to save himself." "Including what?" Dante asked. "Including destroying evidence. Intimidating witnesses. Or worse." Chen looked at Maya. "You have a son, right? Leo Torres, age 8? Maya's blood ran cold. "He's safe. Hidden. For now. But the moment Winters realizes he's finished, he becomes the most dangerous man in the county." A cornered animal, Chen stood and walked to her window, looking out at the street. "I need to make some calls. Get federal protection for all of you. Move fast before Winters can react." "How long?" Marcus asked. "Give me 1 hour. I'll contact the U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI field office, and the state attorney general. We'll coordinate a simultaneous arrest of Winters and anyone else involved in the cover-up." She turned back to Maya. "But I need you to understand, the moment I set this in motion, there's no going back. Your life will become public. Your son will grow up knowing the details of how his father died. Are you ready for that?" Maya thought about Leo, about the lies she'd told him to protect him from the truth. About how she'd said his father died a hero, which was true, just not in the way she'd let him believe. "He deserves to know the truth," Maya said. "They all do." Chen nodded and picked up her phone. The next hour was a blur of activity. Chen on multiple calls, her voice growing more urgent with each one. Federal agents arriving, establishing secure communications, coordinating with state police units that weren't compromised. Rita making arrangements for Leo's continued protection. Marcus helping copy and catalog evidence. And Maya, sitting in a chair against the wall, watching her husband's murder get replayed over and over on Chen's computer screen as various officials reviewed the evidence. At 11:23 a.m., Chen hung up her phone and looked at the assembled group. "It's done. Federal warrants have been issued for Sheriff Earl Winters and deputies Michael Carson, Robert Hayes, and Jennifer Dumont, the 3 who helped stage the scene. The state attorney general is reviewing cases against 4 other individuals in the county prosecutor's office who helped bury the investigation." "When do they arrest him?" Dante asked. "Marshals are moving now. They'll have Winters in custody within the hour." Chen's expression was grim. "But there's a problem. We can't find Frank Russo. He's not at the hospital, not at his home. His truck is missing. It's like he vanished." Maya's stomach dropped. "Winters has him." "We don't know that." "Yes, we do. Winters took him from the hospital last night." "We thought maybe." Maya couldn't finish the sentence. Chen's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her face went white. "Where? When?" A pause. "I understand. Yes, I'll tell them." She hung up slowly. That was the county fire department. "There's a fire at Frank Russo's property. Fully engulfed. They're saying it looks like arson. No, Dante was already moving toward the door. No, Frank's still alive. He has to be. Dante, wait, Chen grabbed his arm. You can't go there. If Winters is behind this, he might be waiting. It could be a trap. I don't care. Frank's my family. Then let me send federal agents with you. Please, Chen's voice was urgent. Don't give Winters an excuse to claim self-defense. Don't hand him a way out of this. Dante hesitated, torn between duty and rage. Maya stood. We go together. All of us. And we bring cameras, witnesses, reporters, everyone we can. We make sure whatever happens next, the whole world is watching. She pulled out her phone and opened the recorder app. Then she looked directly at the camera. My name is Maya Torres. My husband, Officer James Torres, was murdered 5 years ago by Sheriff Earl Winters. I have evidence, video evidence, of the murder. I'm releasing this statement now because I don't know what's going to happen next. But I want everyone to know the truth. Sheriff Winters is a killer. And today, justice is finally coming for him. She stopped recording and immediately uploaded the video to every social media platform she could think of. Within seconds, it started spreading. Shares. Retweets. Comments flooding in. What did you just do? Chen asked. I made sure Winters can't win, Maya said. Even if he kills all of us, the truth is out there now. He can't bury it anymore. Rita laughed, a sharp, fierce sound. You're officially one of us now. Outside, the sound of sirens filled the air. Federal vehicles arriving, marshals preparing to move on Winters. Dante's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression shifted from worry to shock to something Maya couldn't quite read. What? Rita demanded. What is it? Dante lowered his phone slowly. That was one of Tommy's true saints. They just found Frank. Where? At Winters's house. Tied up in the basement. Dante's voice was strange, distant. Tommy's group broke in looking for evidence to use against Winters. Found Frank instead. Is he alive? Maya asked. Barely. They're getting him to a hospital now. Dante looked at Chen. And they found something else. Winters has been keeping files, detailed files, on everyone he's ever blackmailed or corrupted. Names, dates, payments. Everything. Chen's eyes widened. That's everything you need to dismantle his entire operation, Dante finished. Tommy might have just handed you the biggest corruption case this county's ever seen. Chen was already on her phone again, redirecting resources, issuing new orders. Maya sank back into her chair, suddenly exhausted. It was over. Or at least, the first battle was over. There would be trials, testimony, more fighting ahead. But the truth was out. The evidence was secured. And Frank was alive. Through the window, she could see news vans pulling up, reporters sensing a major story. Her phone buzzed with a text from Santos. Leo's asking about you. What should I tell him? Maya typed back, tell him his mom is finishing something his dad started. Tell him I love him. And tell him we're going to be okay. She looked at Dante, at Rita, at Marcus, at the family she'd somehow found in the middle of a nightmare. Thank you, she said simply. Dante smiled. Frank chose well. Your husband would be proud. Outside, federal marshals were loading into vehicles, preparing to arrest the man who'd terrorized them all for so long. The Iron Saints mounted their bikes, ready to ride to Frank's side. And Maya Torres, waitress and widow, stood at the center of it all, no longer a victim, but a warrior who'd brought down a tyrant with nothing but the truth and an army of unlikely angels in leather. The thunder of their engines shook the windows as they prepared to ride. Justice, finally, was coming home. 3 weeks later, Maya stood outside the newly renovated diner, watching as Dante and 30 Iron Saints unloaded trucks filled with donated supplies. Wheelchairs, medical equipment, care packages wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. Each one labeled with a veteran's name and address. Frank sat in a wheelchair beside her, still weak but improving daily. The doctors said he'd make a full recovery, physically, at least. The emotional toll of 3 weeks in Winters's basement, beaten and starved, would take longer to heal. "You don't have to do this," Maya said to Dante as he carried a box past her. "You've already done so much." "We're not doing it for you," Dante replied, but his smile softened the words. "We're doing it for Frank. For James. For every veteran who got forgotten by the system." Sheriff Earl Winters was in federal custody, awaiting trial on charges that filled 17 pages. Murder, corruption, kidnapping, assault, obstruction of justice. The 3 deputies who'd helped cover up James's death had already taken plea deals, agreeing to testify against their former boss. The county prosecutor who'd buried the investigation had resigned. The state police captain who'd ignored Frank's testimony had been suspended pending review. The whole rotten structure was collapsing, and Maya had struck the first blow. "How many stops?" Frank asked, his voice still raspy from weeks of screaming for help that never came. 47, Rita said, checking her clipboard. 47 veterans across 3 counties. "We deliver supplies, spend time with them, make sure they've got what they need." She looked at Frank. "Your list. The one you kept, every veteran you knew who was struggling." Frank's eyes welled up. "I thought Winters destroyed that." "He kept it. Probably as insurance, proof of your criminal connections or whatever story he was planning to spin." Dante shook his head. "But Tommy found it when he found you. Every name, every address, every detail about what they needed." "Tommy," Frank said the name carefully. "I heard he and his true saints were the ones who rescued me." An awkward silence fell over the group. Tommy had indeed found Frank, had called for help, had probably saved the old man's life. But he'd also fractured the Iron Saints, had led riders down a path of vigilante justice that could have destroyed everything Frank had built. "He's not here," Dante said quietly. "Tommy and his group, they left. Formed their own club. Call themselves the True Sons now." "How many went with him?" Frank asked. 23. Some of the younger riders who never really understood why we went legitimate. Dante's expression was pained. "I tried to talk to him, tried to explain that he saved you because he broke the rules, not in spite of it. That sometimes disobeying orders is the right call. But he said I'd become too much like the system we used to fight." Frank was quiet for a long moment, staring at the trucks being loaded. "He's not wrong, you know." Everyone turned to look at him. "Tommy saved my life by being reckless. By ignoring orders and doing what his gut told him was right." Frank shifted in his wheelchair, wincing at the pain. "Maybe we need people like that. Maybe we need the True Sons out there, being the chaos while the Iron Saints are the order." "That's dangerous thinking," Marcus said. "One wrong move and they could drag us all down. Or they could be the pressure valve that keeps us honest," Frank countered. "I spent 10 years making this club legitimate. But maybe Tommy's right, maybe I forgot what it means to actually fight instead of just playing by rules that were designed to keep us powerless." "Frank," Dante started. "I'm not saying you should join him. I'm saying you should remember him. Remember that the reason we can be legitimate is because people know we're capable of being dangerous." Frank looked around at his brothers and sisters. "The system respects the Iron Saints now because they remember what we used to be. Don't forget that." A motorcycle pulled up, a news crew on assignment. The reporter, a young woman named Jessica Kim, had been covering the story since Maya's video went viral. She'd been fair, thorough, and had helped expose 3 additional corrupt officials who'd been in Winters's pocket. "Mr. Russo, mind if we get some footage of the supply distribution? Jessica asked. Human interest angle, motorcycle club honors fallen veterans. Only if you get my good side, Frank said, patting his bruised face with a wry smile. The cameras rolled as the Iron Saints mounted their bikes, not for violence, not for intimidation, but for service. The engine started in a rolling thunder that echoed across the desert, a sound that once meant danger but now meant hope. Leo ran out of the diner, his face lit up with excitement. Mom! Can I ride with Mr. Dante? Maya had spent hours explaining everything to her son, the truth about his father's death, about Frank's sacrifice, about the family she'd found in the most unlikely place. Leo had cried, had raged, had asked 1,000 questions. But in the end, he'd understood. His father was a hero. And his mother had finished the fight. Helmet first, Maya said, fastening the small helmet Dante had bought specifically for Leo. Is Grandpa Frank coming? Leo asked, looking at the old man in the wheelchair. Not today, kiddo, Frank said. But you ride for me, okay? You tell those veterans that Frank Russo hasn't forgotten them. Leo nodded solemnly, suddenly understanding that this was more than just a motorcycle ride. Dante lifted Leo onto the bike behind him. Hold on tight. We've got some heroes to visit. The convoy rolled out, 47 stops, 100 Iron Saints strong, carrying hope on 2 wheels. Maya watched them go, her heart full in a way it hadn't been since James died. Father Miguel approached, his collar bright white in the desert sun. Your husband would be proud. I hope so, Maya said. I know so. James used to talk about fighting the good fight, about standing up even when it seemed impossible. The priest smiled. He'd be proud of what you've done. And he'd be grateful to Frank, to Dante, to all of them. Maya looked at Frank, who was watching the motorcycles disappear into the distance with tears streaming down his weathered face. I think, she said slowly, that James brought us all together. Even after he died, he was still fighting. Still protecting people. He just needed all of us to finish what he started. That's what family does, Frank said. They finish what you can't. A car pulled up, Sarah Chen, the federal prosecutor. She got out with a briefcase and a grim expression. I have news, she said. Winters' lawyers are pushing for a plea deal. They want to avoid trial, avoid the publicity of that video being shown in court. What kind of deal? Maya asked, her voice sharp. 25 years, no parole. He'd die in prison, essentially. Chen held up a hand before Maya could protest. I know it's not life without parole. I know it's not the maximum. But it's guaranteed. A trial could take years, could result in appeals, could give him chances to get out on technicalities. Maya looked at Frank. What do you think? I think, Frank said slowly, that justice isn't always about the harshest punishment. It's about the truth being told. Winters in prison for 25 years? That's justice. Him dying there, forgotten and powerless? That's better than he deserves. The families of the other victims deserve input too, Chen added. Deputy Carson's testimony has helped us identify 6 other cases where Winters likely committed crimes. We're reaching out to all of them. Then let them decide, Maya said. But if they want my opinion, I say take the deal. Put him away forever and move on. Chen nodded. I'll recommend acceptance to the judge. Trial scheduled for next month if the deal falls through. After she left, Maya helped Frank back into the diner. The place had been completely renovated, new floors, new equipment, a fresh coat of paint. The county had paid for it all as part of their settlement, an admission of guilt without calling it that. On the wall behind the counter, Maya had hung a photograph. James in his uniform, smiling at the camera, forever young. Below it, a plaque. Officer James Torres, he fought for truth. And beside it, one of Frank's Iron Saints Challenge coins, mounted in a frame. He'd like that, Frank said, staring at the memorial. Yeah, Maya agreed. He would. Outside, the sound of engines returning signaled the first group coming back from their deliveries. Through the window, Maya could see Dante and Leo laughing about something, the boy animated and happy. Her son, growing up knowing his father was a hero. Her family, forged in fire and leather. Her truth, finally told. The diner door opened, and the Iron Saints filed in, hungry and tired and satisfied with the day's work. Who wants coffee? Maya called out, grabbing the pot. A chorus of voices answered, we do. And for the first time in 5 years, Maya Torres smiled without sadness behind it. The fight was won. The family was whole. And the road ahead, for once, looked bright. 6 months after Sheriff Winters's arrest, Maya stood in a lawyer's office, staring at documents she couldn't quite believe were real. This is Frank's property, she asked, scanning the deed transfer papers. All of it? The lawyer, a kind-faced woman named Patricia Herrera, nodded. 40 acres, including the land the diner sits on, plus the adjacent lots. Mr. Russo is signing it over to you, free and clear. No liens, no mortgages. It's worth approximately $12 million at current market values. Maya's legs went weak. She sat down hard in the leather chair. I can't accept this. It's too much. Frank needs to know someone he trusts will take care of it, came a voice from the doorway. Frank wheeled himself in, looking stronger than he had in months. Physical therapy had helped, and being out of Winters's shadow had done even more. He'd put on weight, the color had returned to his face, and his hands barely shook anymore. Frank, this is your legacy. Your life's work. Maya shook her head. I can't. You can, and you will. Frank positioned his wheelchair next to her. Maya, I'm 73 years old. I have no children. Danny died in Afghanistan, and I never remarried after his mother passed. I have no one to leave this to except the club, and they don't need land. They need what you can build on it. What I can build? Frank pulled out a folder, spreading drawings and plans across the desk. I've been working with an architect. This property could hold the diner, expanded, renovated, better than ever. But also, he pointed to different sections of the blueprint. A community center. A veteran support facility. Transitional housing for homeless vets. A workshop where they can learn trades. Everything I dreamed of building but never had the courage to start. Maya stared at the plans, her throat tight. Frank, I'm a waitress. I don't know how to run something like this. You're more than a waitress. You're a woman who stood up to a corrupt system and won. You're someone who turned a biker gang into a family and a tragedy into justice. Frank's eyes were bright. James saw it in you. I saw it in you. And Leo's going to grow up seeing his mother build something that matters. The Iron Saints will help, Dante said, appearing in the doorway behind Frank. Rita and Marcus were with him. We've been talking. The club wants to sponsor this project. Labor, materials, fundraising, whatever you need. We'd officially transition from a motorcycle club to a registered non-profit, Rita added. The Iron Saints Veterans Foundation. Frank as founder emeritus, you as executive director. Maya looked at each of them, these people who'd become family in the strangest way possible. Why would you do this? Because Frank's right, we don't need the land. But we need purpose. Marcus stepped forward. Maya, half our members are veterans. They joined the club looking for brotherhood, for something to belong to. This gives them that and more. A way to help others like them. And it keeps Frank's dream alive, Dante said quietly. Everything he worked for, everything he sacrificed, it doesn't end with him. It continues with you, with Leo, with the next generation. Patricia cleared her throat. If you're amenable, Ms. Torres, Mr. Russo would also like to establish a trust fund for your son's education. The life insurance payout from his own son, Danny, he's designated Leo as the beneficiary. It's enough to cover college, graduate school, whatever the boy wants to pursue. Maya couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face as the magnitude of what was being offered overwhelmed her. Frank reached over and took her hand. Your husband died fighting for what was right. You finished that fight. This is your reward, not just money or property, but the chance to build something that honors him. That shows Leo his father's death meant something. It meant everything, Maya whispered. She looked at the blueprints again, seeing not just lines and measurements but possibility. A place where broken veterans could find healing. Where homeless families could find shelter. Where the community could gather and support each other. A place built on the foundation of justice her husband had died trying to achieve. Okay, she said, her voice steadier now. Okay. I'll do it. Frank smiled, a real smile, full of joy and relief. Then sign here. Maya signed her name on the deed transfer, on the nonprofit incorporation papers, on the trust fund documents. Each signature felt like a promise, to Frank, to James, to Leo, to herself. When it was done, Patricia shook her hand. Congratulations, Ms. Torres. You're now the proud owner of 40 acres and a mission. Outside the lawyer's office, the Iron Saints had gathered, not just Dante, Rita, and Marcus, but dozens of members, their bikes lined up like a honor guard. When Maya emerged with the signed papers, they erupted in cheers and applause. Leo ran to her, and she swept him up in her arms. Mom, did you really get all of Frank's land? We got it, baby. You and me together, she kissed his forehead. We're going to build something amazing. With motorcycles? Everyone laughed. With motorcycles, Dante confirmed, ruffling Leo's hair. And with hard work, and with family. A news van pulled up, Jessica Kim again, still covering the story. Ms. Torres. Can you comment on the property transfer? Maya set Leo down and faced the camera, no longer afraid of the attention, no longer hiding. 6 months ago, I was a waitress trying to survive. My husband had been dead for 5 years, and I thought his death was just a tragic accident. Then I met Frank Russo, and everything changed. She gestured to the Iron Saints behind her. These people, these dangerous bikers that society likes to fear, they stood with me. Protected my son. Helped me expose corruption and bring a murderer to justice. And now they're helping me build something that will serve veterans and families for generations to come. What would you say to people who still see motorcycle clubs as criminal organizations? Jessica asked. Maya looked back at Dante, at Rita, at Marcus, at Frank in his wheelchair surrounded by his brothers and sisters. I'd say you're looking at the wrong thing. Don't look at the leather or the motorcycles. Look at the character. Look at the sacrifice. Look at the love. She turned back to the camera. The Iron Saints saved my life. Now we're going to spend the rest of our lives saving others. The interview ended, and the celebration began. Someone produced a cooler of sodas and beers. Someone else started grilling burgers on a portable grill. Music played from a bike sound system. Frank sat in the center of it all, holding court like the patriarch he was, telling stories of the old days, laughing at jokes, looking more alive than Maya had ever seen him. Dante approached Maya as the sun began to set, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and gold. You know what comes next, right? He asked. Hard work? The hardest. Building this, running it, dealing with bureaucracy and funding and all the unglamorous parts of changing the world, he smiled. But you've got us. Every step of the way. I know. Maya watched Leo playing with some of the younger bikers' kids, his laughter carrying on the desert wind. Dante, can I ask you something? Anything. When Frank first called you, when he activated the coins, did you know it would lead to all this? To Winters being arrested, to the property transfer, to everything? Dante was quiet for a moment. No. I thought we were coming to say goodbye to an old friend. Maybe help him with some medical bills, make sure he wasn't alone at the end. He shook his head. I never imagined we'd end up bringing down a sheriff, saving a widow and her son, and completely transforming the club's mission. Life's funny that way. Yeah, Dante raised his beer bottle in a toast. To unexpected families and even more unexpected futures. Maya clinked her soda can against his bottle. To finishing what others started. To Frank, Marcus added, joining them. To James, Rita said, completing the circle. To all of us, Frank called from his wheelchair, raising his own bottle. To the Iron Saints, past, present, and future. The shout was taken up by every biker present, their voices carrying across the desert as the sun dipped below the horizon. And Maya Torres, widow and waitress turned advocate and founder, stood at the center of her new family and felt, for the first time since James died, that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The road ahead was long. But she wasn't walking it alone. 1 year later, Maya stood on a small stage in front of a building that hadn't existed 12 months ago. The sign above the entrance read, "The Roadhouse Promise, Iron Saints Veteran Center." Behind her, the facility stretched across 3 acres, residential units for homeless veterans, a workshop where they learned welding and carpentry, a counseling center staffed by professionals, and at the heart of it all, the expanded diner where anyone could get a hot meal, no questions asked. 200 people had gathered for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Veterans in worn jackets standing next to politicians in expensive suits. News crews from 3 states. Members of the Iron Saints, their leather vests polished for the occasion. And in the front row, Leo holding Frank's hand, both of them grinning. A year ago, Maya began, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. I was serving eggs and coffee to a quiet old man who left me strange coins as tips. I thought he was just lonely. Turned out he was a guardian angel in leather, waiting for the right moment to change everything. Frank wiped his eyes, still emotional even after months of therapy and healing. My husband, Officer James Torres, died fighting corruption. For 5 years, I thought his death was meaningless. A tragic accident that left my son without a father and me without answers. Maya's voice grew stronger. But James's fight wasn't finished. It just needed more people to carry it forward. Frank Russo carried it. Dante Vega carried it. The Iron Saints carried it. And somehow, they let me carry it too. She gestured to the building behind her. This center will serve over 500 veterans in its first year. It will provide housing, job training, mental health services, and community. It exists because a biker gang refused to let an old man die alone. Because they refused to let a corrupt sheriff destroy more lives. Because they understood that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when everything falls apart. Dante stood near the side of the stage, dressed in black jeans and a button-down shirt instead of his usual leather vest. He caught Maya's eye and nodded, a gesture of respect and pride. So today, we're not just opening a building. We're keeping a promise. The promise James made to serve his community. The promise Frank made to take care of forgotten veterans. The promise the Iron Saints made to be more than what society expected them to be. Maya smiled. We call it the Roadhouse Promise because promises made on the road, in diners and on highways, between strangers who become family, those are the promises that matter most. The crowd erupted in applause. Leo jumped up and down, waving a small American flag. Frank struggled to his feet, leaning heavily on his cane, and the entire audience rose with him in a standing ovation. After Maya cut the ribbon, she gave tours to donors and press, showing them the spotless residential units, the fully equipped workshop, the commercial kitchen that would serve 3 meals a day. The first residents, 12 veterans who'd been living on the streets, would move in tomorrow. As the ceremony wound down, Dante found Maya in the expanded diner's kitchen. She was washing dishes, a habit she couldn't break even though they now had staff for that. "You don't have to do that anymore, you know," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "You're the executive director. You've got people." "Old habits," Maya smiled, rinsing a plate. "Besides, it keeps me grounded. Reminds me where all this started." Dante walked over and picked up a dish towel, drying the plates she washed. They worked in comfortable silence for a moment. "Heard from Tommy last week," Dante said finally. Maya's hands paused. "Yeah? His true sons are doing well. Rougher around the edges than we are, but they're helping people in their own way. Breaking up human trafficking rings, running interference for abuse victims trying to escape." Dante set down a dried plate. Frank was right. Maybe we need both, the legitimate face and the dangerous edge. Balance. "You miss him?" Maya asked. "Every day. But he's doing what he needs to do, and I'm doing what I need to do. That's family too, letting people follow their own path." Dante looked around the kitchen. "Speaking of which, this place. Maya, you built something incredible." "We built it," she corrected. "I just signed the papers." "No. You had the vision. You had the courage," he smiled. "You all right, biker boy?" Maya laughed, recognizing the callback to their first tense meeting. "I thought that was my line." Seemed appropriate. Dante set down the towel and pulled something from his pocket, a challenge coin, identical to the ones Frank had left Maya. "Frank wanted me to give you this. Official Iron Saints challenge coin. You're an honorary member now." Maya took the coin, feeling its weight in her palm. The skull and wings caught the light. "I don't ride motorcycles." "Doesn't matter. You ride with us. That's what counts." Through the kitchen window, Maya could see Leo and Frank examining one of the motorcycles, Frank explaining something while Leo listened with rapt attention. Her son, learning from the grandfather he'd found in the most unlikely way. "My husband would have liked you," Maya said softly. "All of you. He always believed in second chances, in seeing past the surface to who people really are." "Then we're keeping his promise too," Dante said. "Every day we're here, every veteran we help, every life we change, we're proving James Torres was right to fight for justice." Maya pocketed the coin and dried her hands. "Come on. Let's go see what Frank's teaching my son. Knowing him, it's probably how to rebuild a carburetor." They walked out of the kitchen together, into the main diner where veterans and bikers mingled over coffee and pie. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, painting everything in gold. Above the counter, James's photograph still hung, his smile forever young. Below it, Frank's challenge coin and a new edition, a framed copy of the newspaper headline, "Corrupt Sheriff Sentenced to 25 Years, Widow and Bikers Bring Justice." Maya paused, looking at her husband's face. "We did it, James. We finished what you started." Leo ran over, grabbing her hand. "Mom. Frank says when I'm older, I can learn to ride a motorcycle. Can I? Please?" Maya looked at Frank, who shrugged innocently. She looked at Dante, who was trying not to laugh. She looked at the Iron Saints gathered in her diner, these unlikely heroes who'd saved her life and her son's future. "We'll see," she said, the answer every parent gives when they mean, probably yes. Leo whooped and ran back to Frank, already planning his future as an Iron Saint. Outside, a convoy of motorcycles pulled in, 30 riders arriving for the evening shift, volunteers who'd help serve dinner to the veterans. Their engines rumbled like thunder, a sound that once would have terrified Maya but now felt like home. Dante caught her watching them and smiled. "You know what the best part is?" "What?" "This is just the beginning. We've got 3 other locations scouted. Rita's working on funding for a women's facility. Marcus wants to start a program for veterans with PTSD. He looked at her seriously. You started something bigger than you realize, Maya. This isn't just a building. It's a movement. Good, Maya said simply. Because there are a lot of people out there who need promises kept. She tied on her apron, the same apron she'd worn when this whole adventure started, and headed to the counter to pour coffee for the veterans starting to arrive for dinner. One of them, a young man with haunted eyes and a prosthetic leg, hesitated at the door. Come on in, Maya called warmly. First meal's always free, and the coffee's strong enough to wake the dead. He smiled, tentative but real, and stepped inside. Behind him, the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in shades of fire and hope. The Iron Saints motorcycles gleamed in the fading light, standing guard over a place that had become more than a diner, more than a veteran center. It had become a promise fulfilled. A legacy honored. A family forged not by blood, but by choice, courage, and the understanding that sometimes the most unlikely people become exactly the heroes the world needs. Maya Torres poured coffee, served pie, and listened to stories from men and women who'd fought and sacrificed and survived. And as she worked, she felt James watching over her, felt Frank's quiet approval, felt the strength of 96 bikers who'd shown up when it mattered most. The road had been long and dangerous. But they'd ridden it together. And the promise, the Roadhouse promise, would live on. The end.